and completed his Master of Engineering in Thermal Power Systems from Annamalai University, Chidambaram. He has more than 15 years of experience in teaching and industry. He is an IPMA D-level certified project manager. He has served as faculty for the Executive MBA program being conducted by Annamalai University and NLC India Limited at Neyveli. He is involved in project formulation activities of thermal and solar power projects of NLC India Limited. He has guided undergraduate and postgraduate engineering and management projects in thermal power station and projects formulation division. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of this international conference for giving me this opportunity to say a few words on the latest developments in renewable energy. Special thanks to my friend, Professor Dr. Mahadesh, who was instrumental in arranging this session. So for the next 40 to 45 minutes, we are going to speak on the latest developments that has happened in the renewable energy sector, which everyone might be aware that that is the keys or the prime topic in today's power sector. The future is expected to be completely dominated by renewable energy sources, solar, wind, biomass, and even some other things, waste to energy. We expect that source of energy to dominate the years to come. It is because of the level of awareness of the general public and the commitment of the government to make the environment so clean. So it becomes so prime that the latest developments in power sector should also form part of this international conference. With that intent, this presentation will give you an insight into the latest and the future-oriented developments that are expected to happen in the field, where these budding engineers who are participants of this program can make use of it. So myself, I am Mahendra Kumar. As introduced, I am working in NLC India Limited as an additional chief manager in projects and business development division. We are the task bearers for the organization, where we look for the future projects where power sector is moving. We are a domain player in power sector, and so we normally look out for the future 25 years, how the organization is going to be, how the power sector is behaving, and we'll be looking into that. So with that small introduction, let us jump into the topic. Yes. Say, Indian power sector has started with a very humble beginning of 1,300 megawatt during 1947. Our installed capacity in the country was around 1,347 megawatt when we got independence. But today, we are nearing 3,90,000 megawatt. 3,90,000, around 300 times we have grown in the past 70 to 80 years. 70 years. So during independence, our country was with hydro generation, mostly dominated by hydro generation. But later, during 1970s, thermal power generation started dominating, maybe coal-based, lignite-based, gas-based, diesel-based to some extent. Those generation technologies started dominating, and the dominance is still continuing today. But a matter of fact, those are conventional, however, are certain sources of major cause for pollution in the environment. Even though the major chunk of generation in the Indian need, say for example, 70 to 75% of the energy needs of the country today is met through thermal generation. While your renewable contributes 10%, hydro contributes the remaining, nuclear very minimal. So that is what is the present status of our Indian power sector. The exact installed capacity as on date in the grid is 3,83,000 megawatt, 383 gigawatt. So our Indian installed capacity is 3,83,000 megawatt, of which today renewable energy contributes 95,000 megawatt, approximately 30%. It is renewable energy. But the day is not far, while 50 to 60% is going to be renewable energy. You are all aware. We'll be discussing the positive points of that and the limitations in that. And thermal energy sources, inclusive of coal, lignite, uh, gas, diesel. They contribute 235 gigawatt or 235,000 megawatt of the total installed capacity. They, in terms of installed capacity, dominate. In terms of generation, they dominate. But the day has come, future capacity additions through thermal has been in the declining form, has started to decline. So future capacity additions through boilers, through thermal power plants is a far off point. And the target, okay, I keep on telling that the future is going to be renewable. What is the target that is in the mind of the country? It is 1,75,000 megawatt by 2022 December. Still we have around 1.5 years time, where from the present 95,000 megawatt, Indian installed capacity has to increase in terms of renewable energy, maybe solar, wind mostly, biomass and other small hydro, all this has to come to point 1,75,000 megawatt. In another 5 years, 2027, the same capacity has to still increase to 2,75,000 megawatt. By 2030, the country aims to reach 4,50,000 megawatt of renewable energy capacity alone. It is more than the present installed capacity. So to that extent, RE has been contemplated to grow and dominate Indian power system. Today, our per capita energy consumption, how could it be a reality? So to understand that these projected figures are nearer to originals, the per capita energy consumption, nothing but the quantum of energy every individual in India consumes is around 1,208 units per year. It is for a year a particular person in the country consumes, because it is an average. That denotes the economic activity, that denotes your developmental index in terms of power sector. Global average is somewhere around 3,000 to 3,500. We are still 1/3 of the global average. We still have potential to grow. So power sector is expected to grow. And peak demand, even though our installed capacity is 3,83,000 megawatt, our peak demand is somewhere around 1,90,000 megawatt only. The remaining is spinning reserve, non-operational plants. So our demand is somewhere with 1,90,000 megawatt. And of this 95,000 megawatt, wind and solar presently contribute the maximum in our country, because we don't have other sources of energy, where in European countries, tidal energy, wave energy, ocean thermal energy, geothermal energy are all part of generation, while in our country, a tropical country, it is wind and solar which dominates. Indian power sector is a evergreen field. So it absorbs, it gives a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurship, for job openings, for research and development, because it's being a very vital commodity. And the usage of electricity has been only on the increase, and no point of time you have seen some flattening or some declining. So this source of this sector is expected to grow at an compounded annual growth rate of 8% even in the years to come. As I told you, global average 3,500, while we just consume only 1/3 of it. So everybody will be taken to that standard. So you have this sector will still grow in terms of generation, in terms of transmission, in terms of distribution. Every area this is expected to grow. It's an evergreen field, first of all. And in this field, it is most appropriate, the budding engineers who are participants of this international conference are given an idea about the future. What is the future? Renewable energy is the future. And if renewable energy is the future, the content has to be designed in such a way that one should know what renewable energy is. Even though everybody knows wind, solar, you should know the characteristics of it. And what are the challenges that are given by this renewable energy? That also has to be understood, so that it opens the eyes of the engineers, so as they'll in their career, they can just plan accordingly. And what are the latest developments that is happening and that is expected to happen in the days to come. As I told you, it gives you three opportunities. So can become an entrepreneur, can become it can become a career to you, or it can become an R&D work on those areas. So we'll wrap it up in the final moments. So with this agenda, we are just getting into the main content. First, let me understand, we'll throw a little more light on the power sector and its unique characteristics. No doubt, electricity is a very vital input for infrastructural development in the nation. It decides new industries. The availability, the ease at which this power is available decides your growth. Because tell me any industry which does not require electricity, it requires. Say that forms in most of the commodities, the cost of electricity contributes around 10 to 15% of it. So development happens in countries where electricity is readily available. Not only that, where it is available at affordable price. See, electricity may be available. If it is costing you 10 rupees, 12 rupees, nobody will come for any kind of developmental initiatives in the country. So the prime importance, it is a very vital input which decides the economic activities of a country. As I told you, we are far below the global average in terms of consumption. We have furthermore avenues for increasing the consumption. We are only 1/3 of the global average, or I would say certain developed nations consume 8,000 to 10,000 units per capita consumption a year. So we are very less below that. But still, it is because of the huge population, when you divide it, it lessens. But in terms of generation and production, India is the third largest country after China and US. We are the third largest electricity producer in the world. And we still have certain gaps. As I told you, India as a country, even though got independence by 1947, has not achieved 100% last mile connectivity. Means, I would not say, nobody would be in a position to say that every household in the country has got electricity connections. Every village has got connections, but not every house. There are certain remote villages which are being barred from electricity supply. So still, which again gives you an option that you have got a lot of openings for development, for a lot of openings for opportunities. And presently, thermal power generation dominates, but the future is very bleak. Prognostication of this thermal power generation shows a very, very, very pale picture for thermal power generation. From the baseload operation, they may be pushed to a particular situation where they are supposed to meet with some certain grid challenges. To that extent, it's expected to change. Presently, of the generation, because installed capacity is different, generation is different. So in generation or consumption part, renewable energy comprising of wind, solar, and other small hydro contribute only 10% of the needs of the country, which is very less. That is expected to become 25, 40, 50 in the years to come. So renewable energy has got a future. What drives this sector? Based on what directional guidance does this sector behave? What is, because normally any sector, be it be education, be it be agriculture, whatever might it be, those are being guided by supra-economic factors. The supra-economic factors as far as power sector is concerned is the base being Paris Climate Summit. By the year 2015, it has been decided by India that by 2030, 40% of its installed electricity generation will be from non-fossil fuel based generation. Adavadu by 2030, 40%, may I have 100 megawatt of installed capacity, hypothetical case, 40 megawatt should come from non-fossil fuel based generation, so non-thermal. So naturally renewable, because potentials of other sources are limited. So that is one guiding force, major or the fundamental guiding force. 2030 target, National Electricity Policy, which advocates or which gives you the directional growth, directional path the sector has to grow, which speaks about capacity additions only through renewables, and thermal, let it be used for handling any grid needs and not as a baseload plant. And third point, multilateral development bank policy. Let me not put it as MDB, I'll put it as ADB, Asian Development Banks. The particular funding agency which looks after the major funding has decided no more loans for starting thermal projects. Even if you have given a loan, stop it. So they are killing thermal projects. Consumer awareness, everywhere we go, we have a good number of thermal projects to the tune of 5,000 megawatt, 4,600 megawatt. Starting a new project is a real tough task. We don't get land. Land acquisition has become a big problem. We don't get permission to evacuate. Mining is a big problem. Wherever we go, everyone pounces upon us and stops mining and thermal based power generation, citing environmental constraints. So consumer awareness level is so high. So developing thermal projects is not an easy job in the days to come. Energy efficiency and security. All along, India has been facing an aggregated transmission, distribution, and commercial losses to the tune of 20%. What does that mean? You generate 10 units of power. You generate 10 units of power. Your consumer gets only 8 units. The remaining 2 units is lost. Maybe transmission, distribution, commercial, whatever might it be. That's actually 20%, which is actually a very huge concept. The major reason is geographically split country. So we are thinking of bringing in efficiency through distributed generation modes. So distributed generation is not possible through conventional sources of energy. Solar, wind supported. Security, say fuel security. To what extent you will be able to mine coal in your country? You are the third largest having a coal reserve in the whole of the globe. But still, to what extent one day it will cease to exist? Then it is a big problem. So by that time, you can't think of what next. You will have to pre-plan so that your migration to another technology is so smooth. So that has also mandated us to work on alternative source of energy. God, sun god, tropical country, solar, wind plays a major or seems to a best alternative for our country. These are the driving forces of the power sector. So directional guidance. So where our power sector will go, thermal will die, solar, wind will come, fine. Right. Then we should know little about our grid behavior, how, or I will put it as demand behavior, how the country is having a demand on a day basis. Starting from 0 hours to 24 hours, this plot is for the date 8th April 2021. It's a real-time data. It's a real data. And where you see our demand is not a straight line. Your demand is varying. Your demand is varying. Normally, we have 2 peaks and 2 lows. By morning 4 o'clock, your demand in the country will come down. By morning 10 o'clock, the demand will rise. Whenever your industry, your offices start working, your demand increases. Similarly, by normally your for this day it is only 5 o'clock, but normally by 3 to 4 there will be a sag. The demand of a day in the grid will come down. By 7 o'clock in the evening, your demand will shoot up. So our demand pattern is not a flat curve. So our demand is something like a sinusoidal wave. You need to meet it because it is not, it's a real-time commodity. You can't store electricity. Storage is costly. Even though you've got limited technologies, it's very costly. So it's a real-time generation. It's a real-time commodity. You'll have to generate, you'll have to consume simultaneously. So your consumption is not flat. So your generation will have to also have to follow that profile. That is one challenge associated with the sector. And how it was met for the same day, because there are various sources of energy: thermal, solar, wind, nuclear, hydro, gas. This shows a typical way how on a time of a day basis, various sources of energy contributed to meet the demand. The yellow line, which starts only by 6:45 and ends by 6:30, is solar. You will have to look out for the unit on the right hand side, because solar is very minimal in terms of quantity. And the other one, dark blue, which is having two sine wave, hydro, which is actually supporting the grid in terms of need. While your pink line, the thermal generation, is near flat, inertial changes that happens is given by the thermal generation source. Otherwise, it acts as a base load today. In future, as like the dark blue line, thermal generation is expected to generate, while your wind and solar will dominate in a big way. That this is our real time data. The graphs which we saw earlier is not a representative, because few thermal and total energy generation was on the left hand side, while all other sources was on the right hand side. But in terms of scale, it would give you a very wrong picture. For understanding clearly the quantum of energy supplied by various sources of energy, say thermal, solar, wind, hydro, because last graph was not so representative. This graph is clear representative. On a day basis, starting 00 hours to 24 hours, the orange, which is thermal power generation, contributes 75% of needs. The blue, hydro, may be remaining 5 to 10%. The yellow, solar, is somewhere around 6 to 7%. Green, April month, wind generation will be very less. Whereas the same in terms of July, August, June, July, August, it will be very high. So here again, the contribution by wind in the green color is very, very limited. This gives you a clear picture today how the various sources of energy contribute to the maintaining grid requirements. So renewable energy. What is renewable energy? It is non-depletable, which is available aplenty in nature, which is replenished without any loss, any annihilation, clean source. Sun, it's a source, major source. It doesn't sink because you use solar PV panels. Wind does not stop. It is because you use wind turbines to make use of the energy. No, it is continuously replenished. It is non-depletable. It never gets depleted. So those are non-polluted, clean source of energy. Those are the important characteristics which advocates development of renewable energy. Say, if you see, the growth of renewable energy is little new. Starting 2010, the growth has reached multiple levels, wherein this renewable energy on a global front is a combination of hydro, wind, solar. So we have included hydro also. Normally, India, a particular capacity more than 25 megawatt of hydro generation is not included as renewables. Now actions are going in terms of policy views that hydro plants having capacity more than 25 should also be coined as renewable energy sources. But only small hydro plants are in, but for convenience, for benchmarking, we have also included the growth, or it is doubled starting 2010, even in our country and also globally. Everywhere the growth is very high. Don't think that this renewable energy is so newer technology. No, it has been in existence right from 1880s. Solar was from 1880, wind started by 1887. But the technological development was so slow. Why has it not been any technology that is so mature must have gone well? The advantages that has been gained in thermal power plants based on Rankine cycle, efficiency improvement, the flexibility, and that has overshadowed the development of wind energy and solar energy. But now again, Considering the positive nature of this wind and solar, now it has started growing tremendously. By 2019, we have around 6,23,000 megawatt of installed wind energy capacity, not just on land. Scandinavian countries have got a considerable portion of offshore wind energy technology. They have started erecting wind turbines in the middle of sea, where you get a good advantage because of good wind potential. They have started erecting it, and they have got a good potential there. And if you take the same as a story with the solar, started in 1860, now it has reached 5,86,000 megawatt, overshadowed by the advantages of thermal power generation. Now, the because of the interest, because of the enabling policy framework globally, the cost has started reducing drastically. When you compare the cost with the 2010, the cost has come down by 80%. It is still expected to come down. Today, it is one of the cheapest source of power. 2 rupees, 1 rupee 99 paise per unit has been achieved in the country. So this has got a good fate to come. So our country's RE capacity, the split up of 95 gigawatt, you see, wind was dominating for a very long period of time. Just 2 to 3 months back, solar has overtaken it. Today, solar is the largest RE capacity in the country, while biomass, even though bestowed with good agricultural background, biomass power generation has not picked up well, but it has got a good potential in the days to come. Put together, 95,000 is dominated by 80,000 from solar and wind. India is bestowed with good potential of wind and good potential of solar energy, being a tropical country. So, right, we came to know about the renewable energy. What are the challenges associated with it? There are clean, non-depletable are all advantages. But it also has its own limitations, which every one of us know. Intermittency. Your solar generation is only for a maximum of 10 hours a day for 300 sunny days. And for the remaining days, who will meet your requirement? You have to have some alternative source of energy which will make it so costly. Because when you have only one source of energy, it is okay. You have only for 10 hours one energy, and for the remaining 14 hours you bring in another energy. When you couple, your average cost will increase and the integration needs will increase. And it is also dependent on climate. Sunny days, so 65 days no generation, influenced by various factors. Yes, true, the humidity, the ambient temperature. Basically, the solar PV panels work well when they are being maintained at a relatively lesser temperatures. So it has got many number of factors which gives you so much of cloud passing through sun, your generation fails. So it has got a lot of challenges. A typical solar generation from one of our plants, to that extent your variation will be there. When you find these many, this is a 15 minutes block timing. When you find these many number of variations, how you will be able to maintain your grid? Because it will impose too much of challenge. Whenever there is a reduction, this reduction has to be, because your demand is not going to reduce. You will have to make use of some other source of energy to meet this shortfall in generation. So challenging, it's a real challenging. Seasonal variability means wind projects are prone or depend season dependent. June, July, August, excellent generation, 100%. For the remaining, zero. During April, May, your wind turbines will stand still. You may have Tamil Nadu has got a capacity of more than 10,000 megawatt, which will be idle for a large period of time. But June, July, August, this 10,000 will come into picture, making the grid handlers, the operators of grid, a big challenge. So this is the way it starts generating. From May, June, July, August, you'll have some generation. The peak would be from June, July, August. And September, October, it will come to near zero. How? Does your demand works that way? No, your demand is entirely different. So that is actually a big challenge. Locational dependent. Unlike a thermal power plant or unlike a diesel plant, where you can decide either you can start it at a pithead or you can start it at a load center. You can start somewhere at that location. whereas the solar and wind is not according to your needs. It is based on the potential. Wind in particular can be developed where we call it as passes. Pass means a particular valley that is created between two mounts. The Western Ghat passes are very prominent for generation. Kayathar Pass, Muppandal Pass, Chengota Pass, your Palakkad Pass are locations where you have got good wind potential. So it is locational dependent. Solar, it is locational plus ambient conditions dependent. So you can't develop, you can develop, but it will have an impact of economics. That will give you large number of good generation. This will give you very little generation. So your economics will be hurt by this. Asynchronous technology, power electronics plays a major role. You don't have a rotating equipment, whereas in a thermal power stations, your turbine rotates connected with a generator. So it's a synchronous technology where it would respond to grid demands and needs. This will not respond to grid demands and needs because there may be a point where your grid does not require your power because grid security frequency is going beyond 50.3. Your thermal systems will cut down. It will not take fuel. Automatic control systems, AGC will come into picture. It will not take fuel. It will not generate, and it will take care of the frequency. Whereas sun, it depends on solar plants, depends on sun. Maybe if it is very bright, even frequency more, it will start pumping more. So it will not. It is isolated to the grid requirements. That's a big challenge because you'll have to manually control it, manually curtail it. So that's a big challenge. Asynchronous technology. Fine. You know the grid. You know the challenges associated with it, how to match it, There are various developments that has happened in the country. The main requirement from this is clearly evident. We require a firm power, relatively firm power. Any particular development that makes renewable power a little dependable source of generation is to make it power, smoothen your output, firm power. That is very important. That too, on an economical manner, you can make it, you can smoothen it. How? Put a battery energy storage system, your cost will go, it will be multiples. Economically, the tariff which you are speaking today at 1 rupee 99 paise, when you go for a battery energy storage system, it will become 8 rupees. 8 rupees. What is the use? What is the use in development? No. Your requirement is economically viable system which can respond to grid has to come into picture. What is that? Hybridization of renewable energy is the hot topic today. Government of India is working on a large scale for hybridization. Say, hybridization is just joining so that your benefits is more. There are various sources of energy for hybridization, but a real clean renewable energy source. Wind, solar, we always say that both are good. Hybridization of wind and solar is the talk of the town. You couple it in terms of generation. How? Say policy has been made, hybridization, real hybridization, because taking battery is not right, taking thermal is not right, taking biomass is also not right. Real hybridization means coupling wind and solar. So you superimpose on that, find what is, to some extent you can flatten the curve. To some extent, it is very, very minimal, but a day will come when this technology matures, you'll be in a better position to give a very firm power to the grid. And we have in the country a potential of 8,50,000 megawatt. 8,50,000 megawatt of wind plus solar potential in the country. So one day with wind and solar alone, we'll be able to meet our 100% requirement. We need certain technologies to make that happen. Today, what I say will look a little silly, but a day will come when that happens to be a reality. Policies have been published, but in market, in reality, there is a gap. Work has to be done there. It's best suits for Indian country. How? Let us say how hybridization, when we combine wind and solar power plant together, will it be complementary in nature? I would show you a particular graph which gives you a very clear picture that this is real complementary. How? In wind generation, if you see, normally there is a profile that during daytimes, the wind generation mildly goes down. Not perfectly to zero, but its generation gets attenuated. So during daytime, wind generation is less, but during evening and night times, generation is good. This is a general profile. Same if you take it from solar, daytime, solar is good, nighttime, want of sun, want of light, it's near zero, it's completely zero. When we superimpose these two things over and above, when we hybridize both these concepts, both these things, you will be able to have a little flat curve. So how, at what extent we are supposed to say, solar power plant has got these many number of components. Module, the one which converts the light into electricity, DC. Switch, string monitoring unit, it collects all these things. Because it is DC power, in inverter, the DC power is converted into AC power. Because what you use is AC, not a DC. From solar PV module, you get from DC, and then you convert it in your inverter, and then you supply it to the grid for consumption. This is the block diagram for solar. Wind, again, blades, rotating equipment, a gearbox which makes it to higher levels of speed, a generator, a controller which has a AC, DC, AC. Because variable speed machines today generate AC power, they convert it into DC, they invert it into DC, then from DC they convert it into AC and they supply because of maintaining power quality. And to get the best, this is the arrangement that is block diagram wise wind. When we add these two things, because here also inverter plays, solar also has got an inverter, DC to AC. Wind also DC to AC happens. At that point of time, if you join it in a particular location and we step up and supply to the grid, that is highly advantageous. Normal generation of solar will be around 19% of their installed capacity. For wind, it would be 27%. But when we combine these two things, we can aim around 40% of generation. 40% of generation. Moreover, relatively dependable generation for 24 hours a day. That is the biggest advantage we aim to achieve. But still, I would tell you a particular point where you cannot get a firm power. By June, July, August, that combination will work best. But think of a November night. November month, your wind generation is zero. Night time, your solar generation is zero. So put together, the entire generation from that particular station is going to be zero. So it is only a one step ahead. Now, people ask for, that is one concept that is working on, but still it is not, I would say that that is not a completely disadvantageous position. Work is going on there. And you are, in the future, we are going to get so many number of hybrid projects in the country. Round the clock power. You need to supply power round the clock, 24 hours firm, with renewable energy support. It is not that round the clock can be given by thermal plants. No, not 100% thermal. We want renewable sources also. So this involves hybridization of wind, solar, storage, thermal. Because whenever there is excess generation, rather than wasting it, we'll store it. And economics has to be done with all these four sources, should project a particular economic tariff. So this combination is also on cards in the country for providing round the clock firm power. Tenders have come, many tenders have come. Apart from that, one area of science is developing rapidly, which is nothing but forecasting and scheduling of renewable energy. That's a quite fascinating field. Normally we say God's nature cannot be predicted. But you nowadays find instruction about cyclone, about monsoon, rainfall, everything is being predicted. For renewable energy, to identify the generation profile, two basic parameters. We call it a solar irradiation and wind velocity. Large quantum of work is expected to happen in the market in the days to come in forecasting renewable generation, wind and solar. Algorithms are going to be written and work is going to be, it is going to be a refinement over a year, because this field will get matured after 10 to 25 years, because it is prediction. It is always, there is a particular point for improving to reach 100%. So now they have made it mandatory 10% error is accommodated in forecasting, and activities are happening. Generators, we are being forced to give forecast, and accordingly we are supposed to tell tomorrow what my solar power plant will generate by 1 o'clock. We are being mandated to do that. So that happens, and that is one promising area for budding engineers to look into. So renewable energy is the future, no doubt over it. Economics will be the guiding force. It is not that I find a technology which is costing around 10 rupees, you're out of the market. This can be done only through disruptive innovation, not the conventional way of thinking. So that is going to be the future, is going to be the future. And thrust is being given. This is not going to be done through foreign people, or we don't, because forecasting is mature in Germany and Spain. We are not going to buy from that. We are going to do it in domestic. Domestic content has been mandated by the government, and there is a lot of thrust being given for domestic manufacturing. And rooftop, again, domestic, so indigenization is happening there in the field. Rooftop is expected to develop a lot. So opportunities there, and there is a huge margin there. And digitization, artificial intelligence coupled with digital solutions will play a very vital role, or has got a large chunk of business in the outside world. Artificial intelligence in particular is expected to play a vital role, and the there may be a reduction in manpower from conventional sources, and deployment of manpower to development of AI solutions may be the future point. So these are the avenues which are available for budding engineers for the future. Renewable energy, dependable, any studies, any particular, there are a lot of agencies which are offering you studies. National Institute of Wind Energy, which is located at Palikarnai, and National Institute of Solar Energy, located at Gurgaon, Delhi, are nodal agencies imparting so many number of courses. Along with market understanding, that may give you a very good career in the days to come. Digitization, disruptive innovation is expected to play in the distributed renewable energy storage, in the renewable energy sector in the future. Storage will also have a role to play in the days to come. And so that is what I thought of discussing in this keynote address about the future and about the opportunities for the budding engineers. If you got any questions on my presentations, you are free to raise your questions, please. I hope there is a particular box available where you can post your questions, or any oral questions, whatever might it be. You can raise your questions.
Participants, you are requested to use the chat box.
So there is one question.
Yes, ma'am. I could see it in the chat box. Fine. The question is in India, can we go for hybrid power plants such as wind and solar? Yes, sir. In India, we have already started developing hybrid plants. In Coimbatore, we have got a plant, very small plant, and India has got a huge potential for developing hybrid wind solar. As I told you, the Muppandal Pass, Kayathar Pass, which are just has been, even Tamil Nadu, or Pollachi, what we call it as Chengota, Palakkad Pass, we have huge potential for developing wind solar hybrid through establishing solar panels in the vicinity of your wind plants. Normally a wind turbo generator, 1.5 megawatt, they acquire 1.5 acres to 2 acres of land. But the entire land is not expected to be covered because your footing is around 10 meters dia. The remaining land is available where you can just establish solar panels. You can combine the same inverter, that is possible, real possible. And UCG to be implemented in India. Yes, underground coal gasification, it is a taboo today because everywhere the technology is also not so mature in case of underground coal gasification, but we find it difficult for acquiring land for mining, for developing any, even for study purpose, we don't get any land. That's the biggest challenge. To be very frank, the Manargudi Basin is the largest lignite deposit in the whole of the country. It is 225-meter deep, and it has got a good potential for underground coal gasification. But fertile land, we have, as the Naval Lignite Corporation, we have just taken our hands just to develop that project. Let it be a natural resource available in the whole of the globe until it is existing. We can't do that. So UCG implementation is a challenge. Potential of biomass, say they have not worked out the potential. As of now, around 10 gigawatt is there. What they study is around 40 to 50 gigawatt, 40,000 to 50,000 megawatt can be established. Or this will be reduced if now they are mandating thermal projects, one which uses coal and lignite, to make use of agricultural pellets. That too, in particular in Delhi region, NTPC has been mandated to take some studies. How can they pelletize the biomass, that agricultural waste, and has to be compulsorily burnt in the boiler. So when that comes, your potential will come down, or otherwise it is around 40,000 to 50,000 megawatt capacity available. Maturity of technology, and that plays a major role. So 40 to 50 gigawatt. Can be small wind plant on our home rooftop provided wind is available continuously? Yes, small horizontal wind turbines are coupled with solar and is being promoted on rooftop scale. But the point is, wind potential, say, wind potential below average wind speed, below 4.5 meter per second is not economical. You will be putting 10,000, your generation from that will be very, very less. So we don't advocate it. So wind potential in normal locations, maybe seashore, you could get an average 4.2 to 4.5. I'm speaking about average, annual average wind potential. Only on that scale, you'll be able to go for small wind plant. Otherwise, rooftop is good. Potential for rooftop, we had been mandated for 40,000 megawatt by 2022. Even though potential has not been assessed, it is mandated by 2022, it should be 40,000 megawatt. But potential is so high. If every individual starts to establish a rooftop, the potential will go astonishingly high. It has got large number of advantages. Distributed generation system, no losses, but it has not taken up well. Biogas-based plants, because of economics, because today you have to compete at the cost of 1 rupee 99 paisa per unit, which is actually a very, very, very challenging tariff. So biogas will not work out to that extent. What biogas, even natural gas plants today are suffering. They cannot operate for want of gas, also for want of economics. The tariff is working somewhere around 8 rupees to 10 rupees. No, gas is not presently in economics is not getting its place in the Indian generations landscape. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the thought-provoking speech. It was really interesting and informative to know about the renewable energy and mainly about hybridization, which is required for meeting the power requirements. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. So for the opportunity given, thanks, and for conducive participation, thank you very much. And I thank all participants for having actively raised the questions. My special thanks to Professor Dr. D. Madesh for giving me this opportunity. Thank you all. Thank you very much.